Hello, my name is Stephen Patchell, Nashville Division Meat Specialist, and this is Kent Hauser. The purpose of this video today is to show proper sanitation techniques in the meat department. I personally feel that sanitation is the most important task in the meat department, and how proper sanitation can affect sales and gross profits in your store. First step in cleaning the meat department that we need to consider is breaking all the equipment down. It'll save you time. That way you know you don't miss anything. Also, a best practice to use is always unplug every single piece of equipment before you start running water on it. As one of the biggest pieces of equipment in the meat department, it is vital that you break down the saw completely. Take the wheels off. If the piece of machinery you have, you can take the wheels off. This Hobart, we were able to take off the top wheel, but not the bottom wheel. Bottom wheel is a little bit easier to clean because you can get down there with a brush. Top wheel, if you're not very tall, it makes it kind of hard. But you do want to break down each piece of equipment as much as you can. Also, another important piece of machinery is the grinder. You really do want to try to take off everything you can on the grinder. Take the mixer off, take the head off. It doesn't take much more time to do that. You also want to take the mixer out. A lot of guys don't want to do this. It's time consuming. You can also take the gasket out too. It usually needs a good scrub. The gasket right here will get a lot of buildup. You need to try to pull that out. Just reach down in there, grab it, pull it out. First thing you want to do is hit everything really good. Try to knock off as much debris as you can with the degreaser. Get everything really good. Of course, always make sure that all your equipment's unplugged. Get the floor. Also utilize your 3-compartment sink as much as you can. Usually if your guys do a really good job oiling it in the morning when they put everything together, makes it a lot easier to clean up, a lot easier to scrub. I usually try to let the grinder sit a little bit longer in the degreaser. One of the other parts you really need to look for is right out here above the bottom wheel. It's a place everybody misses all the time. Also right here, health department always looks for stuff like that right here. They'll get you every time. They will also get you if on the back side of your On the back side of the motor and this plate down here, they'll also get you on that too. And of course, this isn't all just pass a health inspection, it's to make sure that your customers are safe. Also want to make sure the foot pedal's clean. And even the top of the grinder. Get it all soaked down really good. So after you degrease everything, you want to scrub it down really good. Knock off as much of the debris as you can. Of course, the degreaser will do most of that for you. You know, make sure you scrub your wheels really well. Everything down really well. Yeah, you really need to try to get in every nook and cranny of the saw, every little part. You know, take the extra time, it's worth it. Your customers deserve it. One of the really missed parts on a grinder that everybody misses. Nobody wants to take the head off. Let's take the head off. Scrub that really well. Or after you degrease, you want to clean your blocks. Best practices are to use block whitener. You can just pour it straight out of the jug or use a container. Make sure it's labeled. You want to make sure all your containers in the meat department, any bottles, spray bottles, are all labeled with the right chemical. You don't want somebody thinking it's market oil and spraying block whitener on it and then using it on the saw. You also want to make sure you get both sides of the blocks, the bottoms underneath. Health department will check under your blocks. Just get a real good scrub on them. In a circular motion, get the sides, get underneath, scrub around where the block sits. The last thing you want to do is you want to turn it on your sanitizer and sanitize every single piece, everything you've already cleaned, get a good coat on it, and let it air dry overnight. Just make sure your guys, when they get there in the morning, put everything together, oil it down really good. Should make for a good an easy cleanup the next day. Push your grinder back in the cooler. Just needs a really good coat of sanitizer on everything. And that's it. Best practices, I always like to put steak paper down on a table, let everything air dry with the sanitizer. Putting the steak paper down takes just a few seconds and it'll keep from any of the equipment boogering up your blocks, making them leaving rust spots, stuff like that. That concludes our video on sanitation in the meat department. The first food safety point we'd like to make today is wearing hats, hairnets, and gloves. Anytime that you're in a production area, you need to make sure that your hair is covered, and always try to wear gloves anytime you're touching any equipment or any unprocessed materials. Our second food safety tip that we'd like to give is making sure all associates know the proper internal temperatures for cooking meat. Anytime a customer asks, how long do I need to cook this, or at what temperature does this need to be done, we need to be able to give them that information so they can pass that information along to the customer. Ground meat, 160 degrees. Poultry, 165. Beef, pork, lamb, and veal, 145. Another food safety tip we'd like to share with you is having drinks and food in the meat department. We need to be able to protect the customer and protect you, and it is also a health code violation. There's a number of bacteria, chemicals, everything else that can get in that coffee and possibly make you sick as well. So let's just try to keep drinks and food out of the prep room, out of the department, and out of the coolers. The next food safety tip we'd like to talk about is cross-contaminations in coolers and our ready racks. We really need to try to keep beef with beef, pork with pork, chicken with chicken, and having it separated at some point away from each other where not even the boxes are touching. That is also a food code violation in many states. The last food safety point we'd like to make is protecting the cold chain. Now this doesn't only apply to receiving trucks, but it also applies to working trucks. As soon as the truck arrives at the store, we need to count it, make sure it's there, and get it in a cooler or prep room as soon as possible. As the temperature rises in that meat, so does the bacteria. It will affect your shelf life. Also, when working lunch meat and frozen items, try to put just enough that you can get out in 15 minutes without having a pallet of stock out on the floor. Because as the temperature rises in those items too, so does the bacteria. And we really don't want to try to get anybody sick.